Election Day is November 5th, and we're sitting down with Norwalk's candidates for Common Council and Board of Education, and we're asking them for their qualifications, their opinions, and their visions for Norwalk.
I have an extensive background in education. I taught sociology at Columbia University, where in the 70s, where I have a PhD in sociology. I currently am in the social science department at Norwalk Community College. Okay? So I understand education from a college level. But I also, in the interim, taught for 25 years at PS 132 in northern Manhattan. I was an elementary school teacher, and I actually have a master's in literacy. And I was a reading teacher the last 5 or 6 years of my career. So I have a perspective on education from the elementary to the college level. I was involved with our son's preschool in Manhattan before we moved here in the around 1990-91, which is one of the only public-private preschools in the city, where it had kids from the Columbia community and kids from Harlem. And I learned a lot, and actually it was one of the reasons I switched careers and became a public school teacher. Anyway, I have a variety of experiences in the world of education, and I think helped me immensely on the council. A lot of people think that the only thing the council does vis-a-vis education is set a cap on spending. That's not true. That's true, but it's not the only thing the council does. We have big influence on school renovation projects, which ones are done, how they're doing, the scope of the projects, dealing with the architects and things like that. We approve all technology purchases, major technology purposes. And now that we have textbooks in the capital budget, so textbook purchases are actually coming before the council. So in many ways, my educational background has helped me on the council, and I think I brought a lot there. I understand certain line items in the Board of Ed budget that other folks may not understand. I'm very familiar with data. A PhD in Columbia in sociology forced me to learn a lot of stuff I wasn't that interested in. But I understand data, how to deal with it, what to look for, what not to trust. And often that would come up, especially when we're dealing with educational issues and programs and why we're adopting one program over the other. So I think my background in data, analyzing data, and my background in education, both have had helped me get along in the council and do a fairly decent job.
In terms of the sort of things you'd like to focus on if you get another 2 years, what would your priorities be?
Well, first and foremost, as always, is to maintain our finances. They're stable now. We're in good shape. That's the foundation for everything else. We have our AAA rating, which is extremely important. So enables us to invest in our infrastructure and keep our schools in good shape. So the AAA rating is in good shape. Our rainy day fund, our fund balance, is in excellent shape. And coming out of a recession with an excellent rainy day fund was a pretty good trick. I'm very pleased that we did it. We've got to continue to properly fund the schools. We have to work closely with the Board of Education. We have to work closely with the new superintendent. We have to make sure that the schools have what they need. Now, currently, the Board of Education budget is fully funded for the first time in many years. When we crafted the budget, the current budget, we knew there'd be a certain level of state aid, and we knew that they were scrubbing certain accounts. Their energy accounts, electricity accounts, things like that. So we knew there'd be some savings there. So we were able to work with other factors in the city to put together a budget that met met their request first time, and that's important. There's also some infrastructure issues that we've got to deal with. We're in the process of a long-term flood mitigation program. We're busy implementing that now. You got to remember, Norwalk is on the Long Island Sound. We've got a couple rivers running through it. It's very, very hilly. We've got lots of wetlands, and we've got an old infrastructure in many areas of the city. And too many administrations let this go on and on and on. Finally, the last couple of years, we're looking into it carefully, and we appropriated roughly $2.5 million the last couple of years. We got to continue our road renovation, paving programs from between $5 and $6 million a year. Keep going with the flood mitigation program, and make sure our stalled projects move forward.
For you, you're in an interesting spot. because you're obviously a Democrat running this year on the Republican ticket. In that sort of unique situation, how do you describe what it's been like, and what have you been saying to people who find that to be a little strange?
Okay, that's a good question. I've been going. Well, let me answer that in two parts, if you don't mind. Why I did it and what I'm doing now. How it's affecting my campaign. I was involved for 15 years in the Norwalk Democratic Party. From my perspective, they did more fighting than governing. No matter how you cut it, no one disagrees with that. And the last couple of years, I think it's gotten worse. And whether I was part of the fighting or not part of the fighting, I said, this is absurd. And it reached the point where I couldn't deal with it anymore. I just had better things to do. I wanted to govern. I spent the first year of the current term on the Common Council not in any caucus. I don't think the Democrats really function properly as a caucus. They don't meet very often. They don't attend meetings, things like that. And they seem to be all over the place at council meetings. And they come up with proposals like when there was the $4 million deficit in the school, in the insurance and special ed accounts of the Board of Education, they immediately wanted to draw down $4 million from our rainy day fund, which would have been a total disaster because we didn't even know the causes of the deficit at the time. Okay, so I sat and I watched, and I got to know the Republicans, watched how they governed, and they were really interested in governing, which is my primary concern. So I joined their caucus, and we've governed. We've worked together. And we work out our differences. We don't bother with national or state problems. We don't talk about those. We talk about local problems. So I feel fairly comfortable with them, and they feel fairly comfortable with me when it comes to city issues. Now, how it's playing out in the campaign is very, very interesting. Because most people, they say bipartisanship is a good thing. And they say judging people by their party labels is a bad thing. So I say, hey, I'm a Democrat, but I'm on the Republican ticket. And I said, what? I said, well, this is true. I had planned the primary my way onto the Democratic ticket on D, but was fortunate to be nominated for an at-large seat on the Common Council by the Republicans. So when we get to talking about it, it gets very, very interesting. I'm comfortable with it. I'm still a Democrat, and I had some really fascinating discussions. One woman said, that's cool. And these are Democrats that I'm talking to. When I campaign, I go mostly to Democratic doors. And so I've enjoyed it. And it's been a learning experience for me and people I talk to.
The relationship between the mayor and the Common Council, what should that relationship be in your eyes?
Collaborative. You got to work together. The mayor needs to realize that we have the votes. The mayor only breaks the ties. And the council needs to realize that he sets the agenda. He was elected to lead the city. So it has to be collaboration. I don't believe in this nonsense, where the opposition, we have to stop the mayor. We have to just throw grenades. I think the council, particularly the majority, has to govern. And if the mayor has some ideas and we have reservations, we sit down with the mayor and we explain it. And we come to some kind of an agreement. If you're willing to sit down and hash it out, it is almost invariable, almost always worked out. If you do that. But if you take the easy road and you grandstand, that's when government grinds to a halt and animosity starts to evolve. So it's got to be a collaborative relationship. I've had some differences and we've worked out compromises, either at the committee level or in caucus. And it's been a nice give and take. You get different perspectives. And don't assume the members of one caucus or the other, they all agree with each other, because they have to come to an agreement in caucus. So to get back to your original question, if you do not work with the mayor collaboratively and constructively, the city's in trouble. That's the way the system was set up to be. I don't buy the strong council, weak mayor business at all. The mayor has a seat on, makes appointments, hires department heads, has a seat on the Board of Estimate and Taxation, can veto. The mayor has a lot of power, and we have to work together to move the city forward.